Hey everyone, good morning. I was out walking my dog. I was looking at my phone. All of a sudden, I realized everyone is talking about this big Nintendo news. And so I decided to come in. I told my dog, finish pooping. We're going inside. I'm turning on a camera. And I got to talk about this Nintendo stuff because it's potentially completely wild. And I don't know what it means for the company, but let's endlessly speculate about it anyway. So anyway, if you have somehow not seen what has happened, let's break down the two big pieces of news that happened to Nintendo this morning. So first and foremost, and the one that probably has the widest implications for the future of the company, one that hits on what a lot of analysts and stockholders have been clamoring for the company to do, which is basically Nintendo is now going to make smartphone games. They have partnered with DNA in Japan. They are essentially sort of like the biggest mobile gaming platform. Think of them as sort of a App Store or Steam for mobile games. And this is critical for Japan because in Japan, mobile and handheld gaming is so much more entwined into the culture than it is here in the States and in Europe. And I guess maybe I should be more specific in that it has been more entwined for a longer period of time. Obviously, mobile games and handheld stuff has been popular in the US and Europe and other parts of the world. But in Japan, because it's this landlocked island in which everyone gets around in public transportation and cars are less common, people often find themselves playing mobile games on buses and trains and things of that nature. So it's why the PSP, despite being kind of a flop in other places, ended up being this huge boon in Japan. It's why Monster Hunter is able to flourish. It's because mobile stuff has taken off in Japan in a way that it hasn't, or at least did earlier in Japan. So it's why a company like DNA has been able to become so popular. And so Nintendo announcing that they're partnering with DNA is a huge acknowledgement that Nintendo should be, or is at least considering, or is now decided to enter the smartphone market. So let's look exactly what they announced and kind of walk through what some of the potential implications are, despite the fact that we have just a little bit of news about what this actually means. So this came out in the middle of the night, and they announced that they are doing a joint development for gaming applications for smart devices. And this is sort of the longer quote that'll get us into a little bit of what's going on. So the alliance is intended to complement Nintendo's dedicated video game systems business and extend Nintendo's reach into the vast market of smart device users worldwide. Under the alliance, DNA will be able to strengthen its gaming business at a global scale by leveraging Nintendo's IP. To ensure the quality of game experience that consumers expect from this alliance of Nintendo and DNA, only new original games optimized for smart device functionality will be created, rather than porting games created specifically for the Wii U home console or Nintendo 3DS portable system. So, that crosses out that we're not going to suddenly just see Super Mario 3D World on an iPhone. We're not going to suddenly see Kirby's Canvas Curse on an iPad. Although, really, I would totally play Kirby's Canvas Curse or the Rainbow Curse, whatever the new one is on the Wii U, on an iPad. There's no reason why that wouldn't work perfectly. So maybe it's not that they just want to set the expectation that they're not just going to start porting a bunch of games made for traditional game controllers onto the iPhone and iPad, but that it's possible, that some of those might happen, just because I think some games will fit pretty naturally. That free-to-play Pokemon puzzle game that they just put out would also be pretty natural on other platforms. But, it makes me curious, how much of these are, is DNA making these games? Are these all coming from Nintendo? Is there any reason that they couldn't put, Fire Emblem on an iPhone and iPad? Probably not. But what this acknowledges, that Nintendo realizes the smartphone market has reached so many tens of millions, hundreds of millions of customers that Nintendo can no longer guarantee their content alone is going to drag people over to buying a dedicated piece of Nintendo hardware. The way they have done that in the past, specifically with their last boon cycle for the DS and Wii, was that they had such compelling content, something that you could not get anywhere else, that you had to buy Nintendo hardware. And replicating that over and over is extremely difficult. Finding something that is revolutionary happens once in a lifetime for most companies, and then it never happens again. Nintendo has managed to reinvent themselves and come up with ways of appealing to people in that way over and over again. But what if you find yourself in a way of not doing that? It's not as though Nintendo is in a creative rut. They are making absolutely fantastic games. The Wii U is probably the best console you could buy right now if you're looking for bang for your buck. And so it seems to make sense that if they're unable to come up with a Brain Age, unable to come up with a Wii Sports, while we're still making great video games, how do we get people to care about this? How do we get in front of their eyeballs? And Nintendo's position in the past has been, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We'll come up with some piece of software that gets people to buy Nintendo hardware. We're not going to worry about doing the easy route of just going over to where the eyeballs already are. And this seems to suggest that actually they're going to go where the eyeballs are. And I think there's a couple of scenarios where how this could play out. It's possible that Nintendo could make absolutely no money from all these people that are making, or let me rephrase that. All of these hundreds of millions of people that own smartphone devices, whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, an Android, a Windows Phone, whatever you want to call it, just these devices that are not dedicated Nintendo hardware. Those people may never be interested in ever purchasing a Nintendo 3DS or a new 3DS or a Wii U or whatever they make in the future. And we'll get to their new piece of hardware they announced today in a second. Those people may be a lost cause to what Nintendo has traditionally focused on and made money through. So, by making games for the smartphone market, they may be acknowledging, look, we have lost those people and or they never had them and or they're never coming back. So, if we were to create games and experiences for them, maybe we can make money off of them because they might still love Mario. They might still love Zelda. They might still love Pokemon. What if we make things for them and just acknowledge they're not our primary customer when it comes to things like the 3DS? And so they're just leaving money on the table by not acknowledging that market and making things for them. Now, there's also a possibility, and one that, even if it doesn't work out, is one that's out there, is that by creating games for and experiences for the smartphone devices, that maybe there's a conversion. Maybe people go, wow, I really like this Nintendo stuff. I would love to play more Nintendo games. And then, hey, Nintendo has this device that they make, that they're profitable off of, with games that cost more, but provide deeper experiences, potentially. We don't know the kinds of games Nintendo's going to make on smart devices. It's possible they're going to be able to make experiences that are extremely satisfying. If there is anyone that's able to do that, Nintendo is probably going to make some of the smartest, most interesting applications of touchscreen controls that we have seen before. What exactly that comes out to be, whether that feels as good as playing something like Majora's Mask on a 3DS, hard for me to imagine, but I'd love to be surprised by Nintendo and have them do something like that. So I think it's essentially them acknowledging where people have moved, the devices that they own. And rather than trying to move an immovable object, why not go where the people already are and try to appeal to them? Because clearly Mario and company are still extremely popular. Clearly Mario and company are going to drive sales and interest. And can you imagine that Apple is not going to be super psyched to put Mario on the front page of the App Store if Nintendo decides to make something with Mario for these smart devices? And, you know, it says specifically here, these games will use Nintendo IP. Nintendo would be out of their minds not to leverage their extremely popular Disney-level franchises and characters if they're going to go over to these markets. And so I don't expect that it's going to be brand new stuff. I don't expect that it's going to be a Splatoon. I expect it's going to be Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, and make some of these games and leverage some of those characters in a way that gets people's attention. Oh, let's take a coffee break. So, tied into this, let's go to the second quote, and we'll move over to the other big piece of news. So Nintendo said that Nintendo DNA expect to develop a new core system compatible with a variety of devices, including PCs, smartphones, and tablets, as well as Nintendo's dedicated video game systems, and are jointly developing a membership service utilizing the system with a launch targeted for the fall of 2015. The companies expect to further enhance their customer relationships through this membership service. You would think that's why Club Nintendo went the way of the dodo bird, and we no longer have that. So, does that mean that whatever they're working on is just some sort of membership service that rewards you for being a customer? Hard to say exactly how that's going to shake out, but with Club Nintendo being phased out, you have to imagine this is tied into that. And I have to wonder, is this actually going to be the account system that we have finally wanted from Nintendo Network? Is this Nintendo saying, look, we know we're not great at server infrastructure and account infrastructure, and these things that people have come to expect from modern linked devices in which accounts easily transfer content and services between different devices. We're not good at that, and so DNA is a company that, look, they're in mobile. They know how to build things like this. Why not partner with them and make that a better experience for our customers? Hard to say until we actually find out what this is. It could be that this is just rewards you're cashing in for buying games. I don't know. But it also might be Nintendo realizing, look, we're great at making games. Why don't we partner with other people who are great at doing these other things, and maybe we can be better at a lot of other things and please our customers even better. Now, the question that kind of hovers over all of this is, what does this mean for the rest of Nintendo's handheld and console devices. Does this mean the Wii U and 3DS are going out the window? We don't know the answers to those questions yet, though I suspect no, but that brings us to the other piece of news, in which Nintendo announced the code name for their next piece of hardware is the NX. And so let me just read a bunch of quotes from Nintendo President Satoru Iwata that kind of address some of the things that might come up when you start thinking about this. Nintendo has decided to deploy its video game business on smart devices, but it is not because we have lost our passion or vision for the business of dedicated video game systems. On the contrary, because we have decided on how we will make use of smart devices, we have come to hold an even stronger passion and vision for the dedicated video game system business than ever before. As proof that Nintendo maintains strong enthusiasm for the dedicated game system business, let me confirm that Nintendo is currently developing a dedicated game platform with a brand new concept under the development codename NX, and we will learn something about that next year. What does brand new concept mean? What does the fact that Nintendo is going to have their games or new games on smart devices while also developing a dedicated piece of hardware? And what does brand new concept mean? And what does that mean for the Wii U and the 3DS? I just spent $200 on a brand new 3DS, and is this suggesting that sometime next year that machine is already going to be obsolete? That I purchased something with additional processing power with the promise of new games to take advantage of it, and that won't exist next year? Is it possible that the Wii U, that it seems awfully early for them to be ditching a machine in which they're about to deliver a brand new Zelda game, theoretically, at the end of this year? All of those are really confusing questions that are fun to speculate on, but I just don't think we have enough information on what exactly all of this is. It is possible this all ties together in a way that we can't quite grasp yet. It ties together in a way that's going to make sense, or at least make sense in the way that Nintendo tries to make sense of things next year, and that we get our first hints of that in the fall when this DNA Nintendo membership multi-device program rolls out, and that it kind of all clicks together with the NX, which one would assume gets revealed, if not early next year, then perhaps at E3 2016. Weird that we're already talking about E3 2016 or even mentioning it in a casual conversation, but that's where we're at. I think Nintendo was probably not ready to start talking about NX or to be saying anything about it, and you know that Iwata is going to be pelted with questions about this. Miyamoto is going to be pelted with questions about this. But if Nintendo was to announce that they're making games for smartphone devices while also not reassuring their fans that enjoy buttons, that enjoy analog sticks, that enjoy the games that Nintendo has made in the past and done so well and continues to do so well, they had to say, we're going to keep making that stuff. We're not ditching that to chase after these new customers. Instead, they're saying, we're going to try and do everything. Is that expanding too much? Is that going to cause problems and quality control issues elsewhere? I don't know. These are all questions that are way up in the air because we just have the very barest of details about what Nintendo is even planning to do with this. But I think it's really interesting to think about what this means for the company. I think it shows at least they're willing to adapt. And man, if it was wild to see a Sonic the Hedgehog show up on a Nintendo machine, it's going to be even wilder to see Mario bouncing around on my iPhone. And then just thinking about what kinds of games could they create. I mean, they reinvented Zelda for 3D. They reinvented Zelda for touchscreens on the DS. Is there a reason they can't reinvent Zelda for a touchscreen on an iPhone? I'm so excited and curious to see where this goes and how it shakes out. Nintendo is the most exciting, surprising company for sometimes the most frustrating and stubborn of reasons, but they make my favorite games. They make my favorite games that I play year in and year out. I love my Wii U. I love my 3DS. I want this company to survive. I want this company to thrive. I want them to keep making amazing games. And I can only hope that in a market in which they kind of feel a little bit backed into a corner, in which things are changing in a way that they've had trouble adapting, this is a sign that Nintendo is going to find kind of the revenue streams and the ways to prop themselves up, that they can keep doing the thing that they do best, which is make great video games. So that's a bunch of random speculation with very little information, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I decided to flip on the camera. I just wanted to get some thoughts out there. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a discussion about where Nintendo is headed. If you'd like to listen to the audio version of this, Inventory Management is my podcast on iTunes. You can subscribe there. Please review it if you like it. Lets other people know that it's out there. If you don't have iTunes or don't like using iTunes or don't want to use Apple devices, go to inventorymanagement.simplecast.fm. There's an RSS feed that you can plug into any number of podcast apps or devices. You can stream the episodes there. You can download the episodes there. You can get audio versions of this, 3 Beers Deep, interviews, plenty more to come in the future. Please let me know what you think if you'd like to see more of this. Otherwise, let's talk about Nintendo.